Thank you for accepting this invitation. I'm glad. How
Yeah,
are you doing today?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Just getting started. So, we're it's gonna be a great day. Gonna be a great day.
So, for the new audience, sir, would you like to tell something about yourself for the new audience, like how you started?
Yeah, I appreciate you reaching out and and being able to do this and going in deep into speed. The main reason that I ended up doing speed training myself, just to give a little bit of a quick backstory for that, is so when I was in college and when I was in high school, I mean, I started off as a quarterback and I do a lot of stuff with quarterbacks as well. And then I transitioned to playing receiver, and that was really what I first started to play. And my dad, who was a coach, wanted me to play quarterback, and that's what got me to do that. And when I first started working on my mechanics, and so understanding or having to learn, right? So I went from somebody that was kind of, I was naturally pretty fast, against the other kids in my neighborhood, stuff like that. And having to transition from being more of a receiver, running back for the Pop Warner team to then playing quarterback, it was a lot about the mechanics. How is it do you throw the football, right? What are the important things about throwing the football? And when I started working with the coach and started getting better with that, it made a big difference. I started being able to throw the ball a lot better and was a lot more effective with it. And so, fast forward 10 years and, I just not very tall. I didn't have the greatest arm. And so I wanted to transition to play receiver. I felt like playing receiver would be, more of my skill set if I wanted to be able to play at a high level. And the big thing was speed. How do I get faster? And I was talking to coaches, and this was 2012, not that long ago, 2011. And it was all about, like, you got to squat more, you got to deadlift more. It was all about, there was nobody that was trying to teach the mechanics. It was the point. And I was always a hard worker, and that I think is an important part to be able to start with, is you got to be able to put in the work. You got to be able to put in the time. You got to be willing to put in the time. There's a lot of people that I work with that, they want to get faster. And I understand that, there's a work smarter, not harder part of this whole thing. But at the end of the day, the guys that are able to really achieve the goals of being able to run a lot faster have a very, very strong work ethic and a very consistent work ethic to be able to actually make that happen. So, that has to already be a part of it, and something that is really important. That's a big thing with, I do, want to make it so in the United States, like, track and field is very important. Running fast is very important. I know it's not just sports in general, here, all the sports, football, basketball, everything. It's very important. And it's been important for a long time. So we have a lot of coaches, we have a lot of people that have played at a high level or have, been able to succeed at a high level within a various degree of different sports. And that's kind of laid the foundation to have a lot of nice facilities, have a lot of, people that are invested into athletes and training athletes, and have a lot of people that are able to or want to, dedicate their lives to their passions. And so there's a great foundation for, I think, training and coaching and just a lot of the different sports. But yeah, I mean, when I got older and, started this business, I really started off more on the biomechanics side, wanting to be able to help athletes. And I realized really quick, everybody was like, how to run faster. I had a little form that you fill out that was areas to improve, right? Like, how can that individual person that can improve? I had all these cameras. We tell you, like, your balance is moving, 3 degrees to your right on your right leg and 11 degrees to your left on your left leg, or forward and back, or, your knee would flex 110 degrees and your force production out of your right ankle was, 40 percent of your body weight, and all these different numbers. And it was my job to kind of look at all this stuff and be able to decipher, okay, like, based off of this, what is it that you are most at risk for injury, or what would cause an injury? How can you improve, within your body? But people would always say, like, I want to run faster, improve my running form, running technique, acceleration, how to run. And so it made me really recognize, like, if I could really help people understand how to run fast, and teach people how to run fast, I would be able to have a really good business. And that's what really got me into trying to understand, like, what are the sprinting mechanics. I already had like an itch for it, something that I wanted to do because of when I played. But I mean, I never got any specific coaching. And, it really wasn't until, because I first went on YouTube, what I think a lot of people do now, and was like, how do I run fast? Like, what are sprinting mechanics? And it was the same thing. I mean, there's a lot of great stuff with programming. There's a lot of great stuff out there that talk about, and I think it's important, like how many hundreds you should be doing, or what you should be doing over the course of a 3-month period in terms of strength training, in terms of plyometrics, in terms of stretching and running and sprinting. And there's a lot of different ways to, I think, skin a cat that way. Just like I think there's a lot of different ways to, be able to actually coach sprinting mechanics, right? There's not one way to be able to coach sprinting mechanics. And I think even within an individual, you want to be able to best, optimize their strengths and their weaknesses. And so with, coaching, that's what I try to do. I try to make it so it's as specific as possible. I try to make it so it's as individualized as possible. And I try to make it so, within the person that I'm working with, I'm giving that particular person the set of skills that's going to help them optimize their own performance, instead of getting too much into generalizations and different things that are, I don't think as helpful, or different quote unquote cues maybe, or different coaching points that that are easy, such as just like faster arms, or up tall, or higher knees, because that doesn't always work depending on how their body, an individual is connecting to their body, and what ends up being their most effective ways to be able to interpret what it is that you're saying. So yeah, sorry if I say any American slang. I noticed that after I said the whole skin a cat thing, when there's a lot of different ways to skin a cat means that you're just there's a lot of different techniques, right? There's a lot of different, I don't know if that will translate over great. So it just means that a lot of different ways to accomplish the same goal, right? And so there's not one way. That's why all these different sprinters have different body technique or body types. They have different sprinting forms. They have different things that they do to really accomplish the same thing when it comes to how they get out of the blocks, and how they accelerate, how they transition. It's all very, very similar when you get down to the numbers in terms of the distance that they cover, the amount of times that they're on the ground, their turnover rate, but they all do it in very different ways.
Definitely. What works for someone is not necessary that the same thing will work for the other athlete as well. Like one of the famous concepts that here people usually talk about is toe dragging. Like Asafa Powell, he drags his toes when he comes out of the blocks, but that's not something that everyone does. It works for him. And actually, what happens here is that younger athletes, they see videos of elite sprinters running, and they think that if we can copy the same technique, we are going to run fast as well. But that is not the thing. It works for them. They have a different height. The block settings are different. One block setting for someone won't be the same for the other. You will have to adjust the blocks accordingly. So yes, definitely the techniques vary for every athlete. So with that actually comes the second question that most of my subscribers, they usually ask me, and that is that, can anyone run 100 meters in sub 11? Is it possible for every person, like a normal person, if they train the right way, if they eat the right way, if they recover the right way, is it possible for anyone to, or everyone to run 100 in sub 11? Not sub 10, of course. I know sub 10 requires not just the training but the genetics of that level. But what about sub 11?
I would say yes. I mean, we have to be realistic in terms of age, right? So you can't be 45 and decide, okay, I want to run sub 11 and think you're going to be able to just get that done, So you start at a reasonable age. I would say sometime within, before 25, I'd say would be, anybody below 25, if they put the dedication and the time into it, I think they would be able to, accomplish it. I mean, not everybody, right? There's certain people that have different disabilities too. There's certain things that you have to be able to somewhat have, but I would say there's a large portion of the population, at least that has the right to. I made a video about this where you have to be a little bit more. You have to have the right amount of fast twitch muscle fiber. And I want to say when I did the video, it was like 88% of people, or maybe it was 80, something like that. I don't remember the exact video, but I was thinking about the same thing. So yeah, I mean, the people that have the muscle makeup, the people that have the will, the dedication, the age. I would say that there's a lot more people, at least 4 out of 5 can run sub 11, right? And the thing is you just want to be able to break down the specifics for you. It's going to be a lot harder for some than it would be for others. I would say a lot of people need to have the right support when it comes to their feet. Like Nike is somebody that puts a ton of money into researching how to optimize the shoe to make it so you can effectively run. And so and there's a ton of companies that do that. And so you want to be able to understand what proper foot contact looks like. You want to be able to understand, where do you have imbalances within your feet, within your toes, within your balance, and how that's impacting your ability to use your arms, your ability to swing your legs, and your ability to strike the ground with the right amount of force. So, I recently just made a video. I was watching a thing about cheetahs and how cheetahs run, and they're able to move so fast and then cut side to side because they have that giant tail, and their tail is their sense of balance. So as their body's going one way, the tail goes the other way, and vice versa. And we're very similar to that with our hip, and our tailbone. But we're also very similar to that, or another thing that stands out with us is we have our arms, right? And so our arms and our trunk ends up being a big sense of balance for us. And if we don't have the right amount of force created within our, upper body or the right angles as we're going into, the backswing or the front swing with the arms, that's going to make a big difference in terms of how we're able to, strike the ground and the amount of force we're able to strike the ground, and also how much time we're going to be spending on the ground. So you have to be able to consider that. I think that's the most important thing if we're going to talk about, like, how am I going to get faster? I would say first thing you want to think about is, making it so you can start to address any type of, just foot weakness and coordination issues. And then you got to get into, the strength and the power and making it so then you can pick up the right amount of distance per step, right? Because that a lot more goes into that. Like, how do you cover ground, and how can you improve covering the ground, and or the leg cycle, right? How much time are you spending off the ground as you are picking up the distance? Because it's all a number game. It's like similar to, it would be a similar thing where it's like, can everybody be have 6-pack abs, right? It's like, you can do it, but you got to just get down to the numbers. Like, how much what type of calories are you eating? What type of balance are you, or what type of diet do you have? Like, you have to be able to get straight with yourself, right? Be honest with yourself and be able to take a look at everything and say what you need to work on.
Definitely. So in the beginning, you said something about fibers, and there is also this thing that some coaches say that we can actually build fast twitch fibers with specific exercises. But the thing is that some people think that if they are slow, then they should not get into sprinting. They should do distance running. And For some athletes, they are very keen in running the short sprints like 100 and 200. I researched about it that yes, we can actually shift our muscle fibers with specific training. So, what are your views on that? Is it possible that we can actually increase the number of short twitch fibers or type 2X fibers in our body? Is it possible?
Yeah. It's definitely possible. It's the same type of thing where it's just like it takes time. It takes the right type of diet, it takes the right type of food. But it is something that you could absolutely do, and it is something that need. If you want to run fast, you have to be able to do that. So you got to be working in an explosive manner, and even the guys that are top sprinters, they are working in an explosive manner. They're not doing muscle or exercises that are going to make it so they end up developing slower muscle fibers, right? They're trying to be fast twitch, they're trying to be very that just as explosive as they possibly can. And again, it's important to be able to recognize and understand even the everyday habits. Like I did a video too about Sha'Carri Richardson and how she walks and how Usain Bolt walks. And if you see fast people, you see how they walk and what they do when they're striking the ground and how they absorb force. And it's an indicative thing of why they are fast. Like, you have to be able to understand how to utilize the ground, because most of the time you're not training, right? Most of the time you're going through regular, you're walking, you're sitting, you're standing, you're doing all these different things. And if you do those actions slowly, or if you don't have good mechanics when you're going through your daily life, then you're not setting yourself up and your body up to be able to develop the right musculature to be able to operate at a high level.
Yes.
So again, it's something that you want to be a lot more keen about if it is something that's really that much or that important to you.
Definitely. What we are doing most of the time is going to impact our body. If we are sitting in the wrong way, we are sleeping the wrong way. Like, some people have a habit of sleeping with their stomach, with the side of their stomach facing the bed. So even that is not good. The posture is not good. And it is going to eventually impact the muscles, the recovery. It is going to impact that. So actually, talking about muscles, I have seen sprinters like Harry Akini, who is the British record holder of 100 meters. He's very bulky. You must be knowing him. He's huge. And then I see Andre de Grasse, he's lean. Christopher Lemaitre, he's also very lean. So, but both of these type of athletes, they are running sub 10 and they are running pretty fast. So, do you think huge muscles help, or do they or don't they? What is the impact of muscles? Do big muscles help in running faster? But if we are going to have a 15 or 16-inch bicep, then we are going to run fast. We are going to produce more force. Is that true or no? What are your views on this?
I mean, definitely with the bicep, I wouldn't say, I haven't honestly done too much research on that, so I can't say with any definitive knowledge if there is a correlation to the size of the bicep to running speeds. But I can say that I know that extension in the arm makes a difference. So I think having stronger shoulders, I think having a strong back, and with having a strong back, you have to have a bit of a strong chest and pec, and I think those muscles as well have an impact just when it comes to again, balance and stability. So that's where it all makes a big difference, right? It's like I said, was saying before, you have to be able to coordinate that upper body with the lower body. So if your lower body is really big and your upper body is small, then you're not able to balance as well and stabilize as well. So, the guys that have wider shoulders and bigger backs and bigger upper bodies, they are also very big within the lower body, and they're using that upper body strength to be able to help them balance and help them stabilize and coordinate the ground force production, right? But then like the longer guys, I mean, Noah Lyles, I would say, goes into that as well. DeGrasse, Ariane Knighton, there's a lot of those guys that are just very, very long. And I mean, you could even say Usain Bolt, like he wasn't super built, especially when you compare it to, Johan Blake or, yeah, a lot of those guys. So it's a lot about your body type. It's a lot about how your belt built and how you are, able to utilize your body to be able to maximize both that force production or ground force production and turnover rate, distance. I mean, we talk about that all the time. Those are like the three main things, right? You want to be able to consider, how much time you're spending on the ground, how much time you're spending off the ground, and how much distance are you covering in your steps. And once you can get that kind of algorithm down and get an idea for your height, your size, then you will be able to put that into action in terms of what it is that you need to work on and what it is that are going to be the key areas to improve.
Okay. So, like the concept of lifting heavy, when it comes to bodybuilders, professional bodybuilders, they keep on adding weights over the period of time because at a certain moment your body is going to stop responding to a particular weight. But when it comes to sprinting, some people, they keep on adding weights. So do you think sprinters should keep on adding weights in their squats or deadlifts, or maybe they should just maintain a certain amount of weight, like 1.8, more 1.8 times more than their body weight, or 1.6 times more than what weight? Should they maintain a number, or can they increase the amount of weight they lift? I'm talking about sprinters. Can they
Yeah, I
actually
mean,
increase?
it depends. So when I work with athletes, I put a big focus or bigger focus on and I've talked about this in the past where it's like I'm not a huge fan of squats just because at the end of the day it puts a lot of flexion on your lower spine, right? When you're at that bottom position, yeah, it's great for the position within the hips, but it's not a great position within your lower back. I don't think that doing squats is bad. I do, think that it's a good thing to be able to implement, but you could end up creating a more difficult time to get hip flexion or lifting your knees up when you're running, and obviously that ends up being a very important part of running. So what I try to do and how I do my programming and my structure for improving athletes is a lot more unilateral based, right? So how much can you single leg squat, and I try to do a lot of different variations of Bulgarian squat, essentially where you have one foot up on the bench and doing that. I also do a lot of different things with the where you're just having to balance and control, single leg RDLs and different types of lunges. I'm really big on lunges, and being able to make sure that those are really good. I like the standing leg curls. I use the monkey foot, which is a thing where you strap that onto your foot and you're working on again, like your leg curls, your hamstrings, the Nordic hamstring curls, and really trying to put the body in a wide variety of different positions in terms of under my or having to take on different types of forces. So to answer your question, I don't think necessarily that adding weight is bad or not something that you should be doing, but I do think if you're putting a lot of of your time and your programming and your thought process around the squat, and not as much around the why behind the squat or what is it that we're trying to work on or how is this making me better with my sprinting, then you're taking the overall goal out of perspective, right? Are we trying to be great at squatting? Are we trying to add more weights when it comes to squatting, or are we trying to run faster? And so if the goal is to run faster, then the programming and the stuff that we're doing should be built around the technique or built around with the thought process that we're trying to improve in that area. If we're wanting to be able to improve the squat, then same thing. Then program in a way to be able to continue to improve your squat.
Right. Actually, I was just saying squat as like one exercise. My main question was that should we or should we not add more weight in whether it
Oh,
comes to
add weight in
squat or
general. Yeah.
deadlift. Yeah, in
Yeah, same
general.
thing. Yeah, deadlift. Yeah. Same thing, right? What's the goal, right? So it's squat, deadlift, whatever the thing
Clean.
is. Are you trying to be, somebody that's consistently getting a lot stronger, or are you trying to be somebody that's consistently getting faster, right? So you want to be able to measure that. I can tell you from my experience. I mean, that's what I was told to do, was just continue to get stronger. I worked my tail off and got really strong for my size especially, and it didn't correlate to speed. If anything, I felt like the stronger I got, the more stiff, and in ways the slower that I got. Now it's hard to be able to 100% quantify that, because we didn't really do much quantification for it, but just how I felt. I didn't feel as smooth. I didn't feel as coordinated. I didn't feel as in tune with my body when I had just a whole bunch of extra size on there, where when I was, a little bit smaller and, still strong, but just not putting a huge focus on how much weight I was lifting. That's what really made it so I was fast. And sprinting a lot. At the end of the day, I think that sprinting is the best way to be able to help you build your strength. That's why, I mean, a lot of times sprinting helps people in getting stronger, because
Yeah.
there's a great correlation. So I would say that when you're continuing to improve your squat strength by doing sprinting workouts, it's showing you that the sprinting is what's getting you stronger, not the squatting.
Yes, yes. Sprinters are strong and sprinters can lift heavy weights, but not everyone who lifts heavy weight can sprint. So
Yeah,
that
yeah,
is the
yeah.
thing. And I live in India, like I said. The average height of people here is 5'4", 5'5". When it comes to men, I am 5'9" myself. So,
You're good.
do you think that height impacts speed? Like, if you have a better height, like 6 feet or 5'11" or 6'1", you can have longer strides. But when it comes to sprinters like Subin Tian, who's 5'8", Andre DeGrasse, who's 5'9", or is it purely about genetics? Or does height really matters or not? Or is it about genetics?
No, yeah. I mean, it's a height is essential. So you have to be able to understand that when you are sprinting, you have to optimize the levers, right? And so when you get to your top speed and you're not able to really you're not going to be able to continue to build speed at as good of a rate the shorter that you are, right? When you're taller, again, going into like Usain Bolt, I want to say Usain Bolt hit his top speed at like the 60 when he hit the 28 miles an hour. He got his top speed to like 60 to 70 meters or something like that. And that just gives, just shows how much time it takes to be able to consistently build speed, right? Consistently build acceleration in order to make it so you can get to your top speed, and then be able to, when you get to that top speed, be able to hold it and sustain it. So, you look at guys like Subin Chen, and he's very, very fast and has very great acceleration, but then kind of like slows down a little bit at the end. So, if you're a little bit shorter, that's more what you have to rely on. You have to rely on great acceleration. You have to rely on, getting to your top speed at a very high level, and then, really being able to hold your top speed the best you can, and really cover distance the best you can. I want to say Tyson Gay is like 5'10". He might be 5'11", but he's the fastest American in the 100-meter. He ran the 9.69 in the 100. So, and there's been plenty of guys that ran, I guess, especially sub 11, right? Like there's a lot of people that run sub 11 that are under 5'10", right? So I would in no way say that the size is going to be a limitation, especially when it comes to running sub 11. Got to be the fastest in the world. It's going to be a lot more difficult, right? Because you got guys like Fred Curley, right? That are just really long and fast, but Even Marcel Jacobs is pretty long. There's a lot of these guys that are fast and tall and have those levers, so they can just get to top speeds that are just a lot harder for the a little bit shorter athletes to be able to get to. So yeah, I mean, I talked about that before too, and it's like, the levers definitely make a long distance or make a big difference, especially when it comes to the longer races. When you get into like the 400 too, like, you got to be longer, and so the shorter races, the 60, the 100, for being shorter is definitely could even be an advantage because of how good a good start ends up being and how valuable a good start ends up being. But when it comes to earning your top speed, you got to be able to, or when it comes to being able to open up, the longer levers ends up being beneficial.
Yes, actually, most of the races that I have seen of Subintian, he's always ahead for the first 50, 60 meters. But when most of the athletes who were behind him, when they are taller and when they hit 60 meters, they start accelerating. And then they are obviously, like Usain Bolt, he's usually with everyone till 50 meters, 60 meters, but then his long stride, it takes him away from the rest of the athletes. I've seen that multiple times. Even in the semi-finals of Tokyo Olympics, Subintian was way ahead in the first 50 and 60 meters. Then Marcel Jacobs, and I saw, yes, one more thing with that. I have another question. People who, I mean, there are two things I've seen. Two ways. Like when I say Justin Gatlin, his fists are usually closed, or not exactly closed, but they are like this when he runs. And when I talk about Carl Lewis, he says that you should have your fists open. So does it impact? Does it have any impact, or is it does it depends on person to person, or does it really has an impact?
Yeah, I mean, I think that ends up being a person to person thing, and what ends up being the most comfortable for you. It's hard to be able to coach one way to, in my opinion, right? That's why I like to try to get more into what can be quantifiable. What are the objective numbers? What are the things that end up being ways to be able to actually say, like, definitively yes or definitively no, because I think that there's a lot of ways to be able to accomplish the same thing. So there's obviously different ways there's different people hold their arms in different ways, and just because of that, it shows that there's a wide variety of different options that you have, and even how people swing their arms. There's a lot of different arm swings that we see. And so there's not one way to be able to, I would say, hold your arms, hold your hands, or swing your arms, hold your hands. I usually keep or teach more of like the closed hand, kind of have like your thumb on top of your index finger is my way of being able to kind of coach it. But at the end of the day, like, if somebody's not doing it like that, I don't tell them they need to do it like that, especially if their arm swing looks good. I just want to have something that I could kind of coach somebody when you could tell like their arms are stiff or tight, or they're not properly synchronizing their arms with their legs. I've found that technique has worked